The morning sun cast long shadows across the cobblestone courtyard of St. Andrew's University as Catherine Middleton hurried toward her final lecture of the semester. Her auburn hair caught the golden light as she clutched her art history books tightly against her chest, unaware that this ordinary Tuesday would mark the beginning of an extraordinary journey that would captivate not just her heart, but an entire nation. William Wales, as he was known to his fellow students, sat in the back row of the medieval art lecture hall, his baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. The second-year student had grown accustomed to the whispered conversations that followed him wherever he went, the sideways glances, and the occasional brave soul who approached him with trembling hands asking for a photograph. But today, something different caught his attention. A young woman with striking green eyes and an infectious laugh had just entered the room, apologizing profusely to Professor Matthews for her tardiness. She slipped into a seat 3 rows ahead of him, and William found himself studying the graceful way she moved, the confidence in her posture despite her obvious embarrassment at being late. Catherine had noticed him too, though she tried her best not to stare. Everyone at St. Andrews knew who William Wales really was, but she had made a conscious decision to treat him like any other student. Growing up in Chapel Row, Bucklebury, with parents who ran a successful party supply business, Catherine had been taught the value of treating everyone with equal respect, regardless of their background or status. Their first real conversation happened 3 weeks later at a charity fashion show in the university's younger hall. Catherine had reluctantly agreed to model in the event, wearing a sheer black dress over a bandeau top and black bikini bottoms. The outfit, designed by fellow student Charlotte Todd, was meant to be elegant and sophisticated, but Catherine felt exposed and nervous as she walked down the makeshift runway. William, who had paid £200 for a front-row seat to support the charity, felt his breath catch as Catherine glided down the catwalk. There was something magnetic about her presence, a natural grace that seemed to illuminate the entire room. When she stumbled slightly in her heels near the end of the runway, instead of looking embarrassed, she laughed at herself with such genuine warmth that the entire audience found themselves smiling too. After the show, William found the courage to approach her at the after-party in the university's student union. The room was filled with the chatter of excited students, the clink of glasses, and the soft background music of the early 2000s. Catherine was standing near the window, having changed back into her jeans and a simple blue sweater, looking relieved to be out of the spotlight. "You were incredible up there," William said, his usual confidence wavering slightly as he spoke to her. Catherine turned, surprised to find the prince standing beside her. "Thank you," she replied simply, her cheeks flushing pink. "Though I think I nearly took out half the front row when I stumbled." "I didn't notice," William lied, charmed by her self-deprecating humor. They talked for hours that night, discovering shared interests in art, skiing, and tennis. Catherine told him about her gap-year adventures in Chile, where she had volunteered with Raleigh International, building walkways, and teaching English to local children. William shared stories of his own gap year in Belize, working on British Army training exercises, and teaching children in local schools. As the semester progressed, their friendship deepened. They would meet for coffee at the Way Pat Tavern, a popular student pub just off South Street, where they could blend in with other university students and enjoy relative anonymity. Catherine appreciated that William never tried to impress her with his royal status. Instead, he seemed genuinely interested in her thoughts, her dreams, and her perspectives on everything from Renaissance art to environmental conservation. Their study sessions in the university library became legendary among their close circle of friends. William would often find Catherine tucked away in a quiet corner, surrounded by thick art history textbooks, her brow furrowed in concentration as she took detailed notes. He would slide into the chair beside her, bringing coffee and homemade biscuits that his housekeeper had sent from home. "You know," Catherine would tease him, "for someone who's supposed to inherit a kingdom, you're remarkably good at fetching coffee." "Years of training," William would reply with a grin, "though I suspect my grandmother would be horrified if she knew I was using my royal education to become the world's most overqualified barista." Their conversations during these study sessions revealed the depth of both their characters. Catherine spoke passionately about her desire to work in the art world, perhaps in a gallery or museum, where she could share her love of history and culture with others. William confided his own struggles with the expectations placed upon him, the weight of tradition and duty that sometimes felt overwhelming. "Sometimes I wonder what it would be like to just be William," he admitted one evening as they walked along the beach at St. Andrew's Bay, the wind whipping through their hair as the sun set over the North Sea. "You are just William," Catherine replied, stopping to face him. "At least, that's all I see when I look at you." It was in that moment, with the waves crashing against the shore and the seagulls calling overhead, that William realized he was falling in love with Catherine Middleton. Not because she treated him like royalty, but because she treated him like a person. Their relationship remained platonic throughout their first year, built on a foundation of genuine friendship and mutual respect. They attended lectures together, joined the same social clubs, and spent countless hours debating everything from the symbolism in pre-Raphaelite paintings to the best strategies for their shared geography coursework. Catherine's friends, particularly her roommate from Marlborough College days, were amazed by her ability to maintain such a natural relationship with the second in line to the throne. But Catherine had always possessed an innate ability to see past surface appearances to the person beneath. Growing up in a loving, stable family environment had given her the confidence to be herself in any situation. The media had begun to take notice of the attractive brunette who seemed to appear frequently in photographs of William's university life. But Catherine handled the attention with remarkable poise for someone so young. She neither sought out the cameras nor ran from them, instead maintaining her focus on her studies and her friendships. During their second year, when they became flatmates along with two other friends in a Victorian terrace house on Hope Street, their relationship began to evolve. The shared domestic routine of cooking meals, watching television, and simply existing in the same space created an intimacy that went beyond their previous friendship. William would often find Catherine in the kitchen early in the morning, preparing breakfast while humming softly to herself. She had a natural domesticity about her that he found comforting, a stark contrast to the formal, protocol-driven environment he was accustomed to at home. "Good morning," she would say cheerfully, never making a fuss about his occasionally disheveled appearance or his tendency to stumble around half asleep until he'd had his first cup of tea. "Morning," he would mumble back, grateful for her easy acceptance of his morning grouchiness. These small, everyday moments became precious to both of them. Catherine would leave little notes in William's textbooks when she borrowed them, amusing observations or encouraging words before exams. William would surprise her with her favorite chocolates from the local sweet shop or tickets to art exhibitions in nearby Edinburgh. Their friends began to notice the way they looked at each other, the comfortable silences they shared, and the subtle ways they cared for one another. But both William and Catherine seemed hesitant to acknowledge the romantic feelings that were clearly developing between them. The turning point came during a weekend trip to the Scottish Highlands with a group of university friends. They had rented a small cottage near Loch Katrine, planning to spend their days hiking and their evenings around the fireplace, playing games and sharing stories. On their second day, Catherine and William found themselves separated from the group during a particularly challenging hike. A sudden fog had rolled in, reducing visibility to just a few meters, and they had taken a wrong turn somewhere along the mountain trail. "I think we're lost," Catherine said, trying to keep the worry out of her voice as she studied the map they'd been given at the visitor center. "Brilliant," William replied, but his tone was light rather than concerned. "Well, I suppose if I'm going to be lost on a Scottish mountain, I couldn't ask for better company." They spent the next 2 hours finding their way back to familiar territory, talking and laughing as they navigated the rocky terrain together. When they finally emerged from the fog and saw the cottage in the distance, both felt a strange mixture of relief and disappointment that their unexpected adventure was over. That evening, as they sat by the fireplace after their friends had gone to bed, Catherine found herself studying William's profile in the flickering light. The easy camaraderie they had shared during their impromptu adventure had revealed something she had been trying to ignore for months. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For getting us lost?" William asked, turning to meet her gaze. "For making it an adventure instead of a disaster," Catherine replied. The moment stretched between them, filled with unspoken possibilities and carefully guarded emotions. William reached out to tuck a strand of hair behind Catherine's ear, his fingers lingering against her cheek. "Catherine," he began, his voice uncertain for perhaps the first time since she had known him. But before he could continue, one of their friends stumbled down the stairs, breaking the spell and sending them both to their separate rooms with racing hearts and confused emotions. The remainder of their university years passed in a blur of studies, social events, and the growing media attention that followed their every public appearance. Catherine graduated with a degree in art history, while William completed his geography studies, both achieving respectable marks despite the unique pressures they faced. Their relationship had become an open secret among their close friends and family, though they maintained their privacy with remarkable discipline. Catherine had been welcomed warmly by William's father and stepmother during visits to Highgrove House, and William had become a regular guest at the Middleton family home in Bucklebury. Carol and Michael Middleton had embraced William with the same warmth they showed to all their children's friends, treating him as simply another young man their daughter cared about, rather than the future King of England. These visits became some of William's most treasured memories, offering him glimpses of the normal family life he had always longed for. But as their university days drew to a close, both Catherine and William knew that the protected bubble of St. Andrews would soon burst, forcing them to confront the realities of their different destinies. William would return to his royal duties, beginning his military training and gradually assuming more official responsibilities. Catherine would need to find her own path in a world that would scrutinize her every move simply because of her association with him. The conversation they had both been avoiding finally came on their last night in the Hope Street flat. Their flatmates had already moved out, and the house felt strangely empty with just the two of them packing up the remnants of their shared university life. "What happens now?" Catherine asked as she folded clothes into her suitcase, her voice carefully neutral. William, who had been wrapping a framed photograph of their friend group, paused in his task. "I don't know," he admitted honestly. "Everything is going to change." They both understood the weight of that statement. The carefree days of university life, where they could simply be William and Catherine, were coming to an end. The future would bring scrutiny, protocol, and pressures that neither of them felt entirely prepared to face. As they stood in the empty living room where they had shared so many quiet evenings and long conversations, both felt the profound significance of the moment. They were leaving behind not just a place, but a time in their lives when love could exist without the complications of duty and destiny. The next morning, as they loaded their belongings into separate cars, Catherine and William shared a look that spoke volumes about the uncertainty that lay ahead. They had found something precious together in the halls and streets of St. Andrews, but whether that precious thing could survive in the world beyond remained an open question that only time would answer. The transition from university life to the real world proved more challenging than either Catherine or William had anticipated. The protective bubble of St. Andrews had allowed their relationship to develop naturally, away from the intense scrutiny that now seemed to follow Catherine's every move. Catherine had moved back to her family home in Bucklebury, where she spent her days helping her mother with party pieces, the family business that had grown from a small venture into a successful company specializing in children's party supplies. The work provided a welcome distraction from the uncertainty surrounding her future with William, but she couldn't escape the feeling that she was living in limbo. Meanwhile, William had begun his officer training at the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst, immersing himself in the rigorous schedule of military life. The physical demands and strict discipline provided him with a sense of purpose, but during quiet moments in his dormitory, his thoughts invariably turned to Catherine. Their communication during this period consisted mainly of stolen phone calls late at night and carefully worded text messages. William would call Catherine after lights out, speaking in hushed tones about his training exercises and the challenges of military life. Catherine would share stories about her work with party pieces, the new photography course she had enrolled in, and the simple pleasures of life in Berkshire. "I miss our talks," William would whisper into his phone, careful not to wake his sleeping roommate. "I miss everything," Catherine would reply softly, standing by her bedroom window and looking out at the familiar countryside of her childhood. These conversations became lifelines for both of them, maintaining the connection they had forged at university while they navigated their separate new realities. But the distance and uncertainty began to take their toll. The media attention surrounding Catherine intensified dramatically during this period. Photographers followed her to work, to the local shops, and even to her childhood haunts in Bucklebury. Headlines speculated about her relationship with William, dissecting her every outfit choice and public appearance for clues about their future together. Catherine's parents, Carol and Michael Middleton, watched their daughter struggle with this newfound notoriety with growing concern. They had raised their children to value privacy and normalcy, and seeing Catherine hounded by photographers was deeply distressing for the entire family. "Just ignore them, darling," Carol would advise, but both mother and daughter knew it was easier said than done. The situation reached a breaking point one autumn morning when Catherine was photographed looking distressed after a particularly aggressive pursuit by paparazzi photographers. The image, which appeared on front pages across the country, showed a young woman clearly struggling with the pressures of unwanted fame. That evening, William called Catherine earlier than usual, his voice tight with anger and concern. "I saw the photographs," he said without preamble. "This has gone too far." "It's not your fault," Catherine replied, though her voice betrayed her exhaustion. "It is my fault," William insisted. "You're dealing with this because of me, because of who I am." The conversation that followed was their first serious discussion about the realities of royal life and what a future together might actually entail. William spoke honestly about the constant scrutiny, the loss of privacy, and the endless obligations that came with his position. Catherine listened quietly, beginning to understand the full magnitude of what being with William would mean for her life. "I never asked for this," Catherine said finally, her voice small in the darkness of her childhood bedroom. "I know," William replied, his heart breaking at the pain in her voice. "And I can't promise it will get easier." The weight of that conversation hung between them for weeks afterward. Catherine found herself questioning whether she was strong enough for a life lived entirely in the public eye. William struggled with the knowledge that his love for Catherine was causing her pain and disrupting her previously peaceful existence. Their relationship entered a period of uncertainty and tension. William's visits to Bucklebury became less frequent due to his military commitments, and when they did see each other, the easy intimacy they had shared at university seemed strained by the pressure surrounding them. The Middleton family rallied around Catherine during this difficult period, providing the love and support that had always been the foundation of her strength. Her younger siblings, Pippa and James, made efforts to maintain normalcy in their family life, organizing impromptu movie nights and countryside walks that reminded Catherine of the simple pleasures that existed beyond the media circus. Pippa, in particular, became Catherine's closest confidant during this time. The sisters would spend hours talking in Catherine's bedroom, discussing everything from career aspirations to the complexities of high-profile relationships. "Do you love him?" Pippa asked one evening as they sat together by Catherine's bedroom window. "Yes," Catherine replied without hesitation. "But sometimes I wonder if love is enough." It was a question that would define the next phase of Catherine and William's relationship. As William progressed through his military training and began taking on more royal duties, and as Catherine established herself in the working world, they were forced to confront whether their feelings could survive the unique challenges that came with William's position. William completed his officer training at Sandhurst in December, and his graduation ceremony marked a significant milestone in his journey toward his future role. Catherine attended the ceremony along with the royal family, standing with William's father and stepmother as they watched him receive his commission as a second lieutenant. The sight of William in his military dress uniform, standing at attention as he was formally commissioned, filled Catherine with pride and something else she couldn't quite identify. Perhaps it was the realization of just how different their worlds really were, or maybe it was the recognition that the carefree young man she had fallen in love with at university was gradually transforming into the future king he was destined to become. After the ceremony, at the formal reception, Catherine found herself navigating conversations with senior military officials, government ministers, and members of the royal household. She handled herself with grace and poise, drawing on the confidence her parents had instilled in her. But the experience reinforced how much her life had changed since those simple days at St. Andrews. "You were magnificent today," William told her later as they stole a few quiet moments together in the gardens of Sandhurst. "I felt completely out of my depth," Catherine admitted, smoothing down her elegant coat against the December wind. "You didn't show it," William assured her. "You never do." They spent the Christmas holidays apart that year, William with the royal family at Sandringham and Catherine with her family in Bucklebury. The separation gave both of them time to reflect on their relationship and what they truly wanted for their futures. Catherine spent quiet evenings by the fire with her parents, talking about her hopes and fears for the year ahead. Carol Middleton, with her characteristic wisdom and warmth, encouraged her daughter to trust her instincts and remember that happiness should never be sacrificed for obligation, whether to duty or to love. "You have to live your own life, Catherine," her mother told her one snowy evening. "Whatever that looks like, your father and I will support you." William, meanwhile, found himself in long conversations with his father about duty, love, and the responsibilities that came with their position. The discussions were thoughtful and honest, touching on the challenges that royal marriages had faced in the past and the importance of finding the right partner for both personal happiness and public service. "The woman you choose will sacrifice a great deal to be with you," his father reminded him. "You must be certain that what you're offering in return is worth that sacrifice." These wise words stayed with William throughout the holidays and into the new year. When he and Catherine reunited in January, both had gained new perspective on their relationship and the decisions they would need to make. Their reunion took place at a small pub in the countryside near Bucklebury, chosen for its privacy and the relative anonymity it offered. Catherine arrived first, nervous about seeing William after their longest separation since university. When he walked through the door, still in his casual civilian clothes, but somehow carrying himself with new authority and confidence, she felt her heart skip in the familiar way that reminded her why she had fallen in love with him in the first place. "Hello," he said simply, sliding into the seat across from her, his eyes searching her face for signs of how she was feeling. "Hello," she replied, suddenly, feeling shy despite everything they had shared over the past several years. They talked for hours that afternoon, openly and honestly about their fears, their hopes, and their love for each other. William spoke about his growing understanding of what his future would entail and his desire to find a way to balance his public duties with personal happiness. Catherine shared her own journey of self-discovery during their time apart, and her realization that she was stronger than she had previously believed. "I don't want to live my life wondering what if," Catherine said finally, reaching across the table to take William's hand. "Neither do I," William replied, intertwining their fingers and feeling some of the tension that had been building for months finally begin to ease. Their conversation marked a turning point in their relationship, a conscious decision to face whatever challenges lay ahead together rather than allowing external pressures to drive them apart. But even as they renewed their commitment to each other, both understood that difficult times still lay ahead. The media scrutiny continued unabated throughout the spring. Catherine's every public appearance was analyzed and dissected, from her fashion choices to her body language. The constant attention was exhausting and invasive, but she had developed strategies for coping with it, drawing on her inner strength and the support of her family. William completed his military training and was assigned to the Blues and Royals Regiment, beginning what would become a meaningful military career. The structure and purpose of Army life suited him, providing an outlet for his energy and a sense of accomplishment separate from his royal identity. Their relationship during this period was characterized by stolen weekends, quick visits, and the constant challenge of maintaining privacy in an increasingly public world. They learned to communicate in code over the phone, to meet in out-of-the-way places, and to treasure the simple pleasure of spending time together without cameras or crowds. One such weekend, William surprised Catherine with a trip to a remote cottage in the Scottish Highlands, the same region where they had shared their hiking adventure during university. The cottage was simple and rustic, with no modern amenities or luxury, but it offered something more valuable than comfort: complete privacy. They spent 2 days hiking through the heather-covered hills, cooking simple meals over an open fire, and talking long into the night. It was during one of these conversations, as they sat outside the cottage under a canopy of brilliant stars, that William first spoke seriously about marriage. "I want you to know," he said carefully, his voice carrying the weight of serious consideration, "that I'm not asking you to wait indefinitely for me to figure out my life. I know what I want. I just need to make sure the timing is right, for both of us." Catherine listened quietly, understanding the complexity of what he was trying to say. Marriage for William wasn't just a personal decision. It was a constitutional matter that would affect the monarchy and the country. The pressure to make the right choice was enormous, and the consequences of a mistake would be felt far beyond their personal lives. "I'm not going anywhere," Catherine assured him, leaning against his shoulder as they watched meteors streak across the dark sky. "When you're ready, I'll be ready." It was a promise that would be tested repeatedly in the months and years that followed, as their relationship faced challenges that would have destroyed many couples. But in that moment, under the vast Scottish sky, both Catherine and William felt the deep certainty that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. The summer of William's military service brought new challenges and new growth for both of them. William was stationed at various bases around the country, learning different aspects of military life and discovering a passion for helicopter piloting that would later shape his career. Catherine continued her work with party pieces while also pursuing her interest in photography, taking courses, and building a portfolio that reflected her artistic eye and her love of capturing natural beauty. Their relationship had matured significantly since their university days, deepened by the challenges they had faced and strengthened by their conscious choice to weather those challenges together. They had learned to communicate across distance and time zones, to support each other through periods of stress and uncertainty, and to find joy in small moments of connection despite the pressure surrounding them. Friends who knew them during this period often commented on the evident love and respect they showed for each other, and the way they seemed to bring out the best in one another. William became more confident and grounded when Catherine was around, while she seemed to glow with happiness when they were together. But even as their personal relationship strengthened, the external pressures continued to mount, setting the stage for one of the most difficult periods they would face together. The autumn of 2006 brought a subtle but noticeable shift in the dynamics surrounding Catherine and William's relationship. The media coverage had intensified to an almost unbearable level, with photographers camping outside Catherine's flat in Chelsea and following her to her job at Jigsaw, the fashion boutique, where she had recently begun working as an accessories buyer. Catherine had moved to London partly to be closer to William when his military duties brought him to the capital, and partly to establish her independence in the career world. The flat she shared with her sister Pippa on Old Church Street became a sanctuary from the constant scrutiny, but even there, photographers would wait for hours hoping to capture a glimpse of the woman many newspapers had begun calling the future princess. The pressure was taking its toll on Catherine in ways that weren't immediately visible to outsiders. She had lost weight from the stress, and close friends noticed that her naturally sunny disposition sometimes gave way to periods of quiet anxiety. The simple act of leaving her flat had become a strategic operation, requiring careful timing and often decoy routes to avoid the most aggressive photographers. William watched Catherine struggle with growing frustration and guilt. His military training at the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst had taught him to compartmentalize stress and focus on objectives, but seeing the woman he loved suffer because of their relationship challenged his emotional equilibrium in ways he hadn't anticipated. "I can handle it," Catherine would insist when William expressed concern about the media attention, but he could see the strain in her eyes and the tension in her shoulders when she thought no one was looking. Their relationship during this period was characterized by intense highs and troubling lows. When they were together, away from cameras and crowds, they experienced the deep connection and joy that had first brought them together. But the external pressures created an undercurrent of stress that neither could entirely ignore. William's royal duties were increasing as he matured into his role, requiring his presence at state functions, charity events, and official engagements that often conflicted with his desire to support Catherine through this difficult time. The competing demands of duty and personal life created a tension that would only intensify in the months ahead. One particularly difficult evening in November, Catherine attended a royal gala where she was seated at a table with several senior members of the royal household. The conversation was polite but formal, touching on charitable causes, upcoming state visits, and the social calendar for the coming season. Catherine participated gracefully, drawing on her natural intelligence and genuine interest in the charitable work being discussed. But she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being evaluated, that every word and gesture was being assessed by people trying to determine whether she was suitable for the role that seemed increasingly inevitable. "You handled yourself beautifully tonight," William told her later as they walked through the quiet gardens behind the venue. "Did I pass the test?" Catherine asked, her voice carrying a note of weariness that concerned him. "You're not being tested," William replied, though both of them knew that wasn't entirely true. The reality was that Catherine was being observed and evaluated by palace staff, government officials, and royal advisors who understood that William's choice of bride would have implications far beyond their personal happiness. The monarchy was an institution built on tradition and public support, and any future queen would need to possess the qualities necessary to serve that institution effectively. Catherine understood this intellectually, but the emotional weight of constant evaluation was exhausting. She had been raised to value authenticity and spontaneity, qualities that seemed increasingly at odds with the careful protocol that governed royal life. The Christmas season brought temporary relief from the intensity of public scrutiny, as both Catherine and William retreated to their respective family homes for the holidays. Catherine spent Christmas with the Middletons in Bucklebury, where the familiar rhythms of family life provided comfort, and perspective. The Middleton family Christmas was warm and chaotic in the best possible way, with James home from university, Pippa full of stories about her latest adventures, and their parents creating the same loving, supportive atmosphere that had defined Catherine's childhood. The contrast with the formal protocols of royal celebrations was stark, reminding Catherine of the life she would be leaving behind if she and William married. "Are you happy?" Carol Middleton asked her daughter one quiet evening as they sat together wrapping gifts by the fire. Catherine paused in her task, considering the question seriously. "I'm in love," she replied finally. "But I'm not sure if that's the same thing as being happy anymore." It was a telling response that revealed the complexity of her emotional state during this period. Her love for William remained strong and unwavering, but the circumstances surrounding their relationship had created stress and uncertainty that complicated her natural joy. William spent Christmas at Sandringham with the royal family, participating in the traditional Christmas Eve gift exchange, attending the morning service at St. Mary Magdalene Church, and joining the family for the formal Christmas lunch. But throughout the festivities, his thoughts remained focused on Catherine and the challenges she was facing. He found himself in long conversations with his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II, who had observed his relationship with Catherine with interest and growing approval. The Queen, with her decades of experience balancing personal feelings with constitutional requirements, offered wisdom that would prove invaluable in the months ahead. "Love is important," she told him during one of their walks through the Sandringham Gardens, "but compatibility and shared purpose are equally vital for a successful royal marriage. The question you must answer is whether Miss Middleton possesses not just your heart, but the strength and dedication necessary for the role she would assume." These conversations helped William articulate thoughts and feelings that had been swirling in his mind for months. He loved Catherine deeply and admired her strength, intelligence, and natural grace. But he was also acutely aware of the magnitude of what he was asking her to sacrifice for their relationship. The new year brought a renewed intensity to speculation about their future, with newspapers running daily stories about potential engagement announcements and wedding plans. The constant attention reached a fever pitch in early March when Catherine attended a rugby match to watch William play, and photographers captured images of her cheering enthusiastically from the sidelines. The photographs, which showed Catherine looking relaxed and genuinely happy, were published worldwide and sparked a fresh wave of engagement rumors. But behind the scenes, the couple was struggling with the relentless pressure and beginning to question whether their relationship could survive the unique challenges they faced. The breaking point came during a weekend in April that William and Catherine had planned to spend together at a friend's country house in Gloucestershire. What should have been a peaceful retreat became a nightmare when photographers discovered their location and set up camp outside the property. The situation escalated when several photographers attempted to scale the walls of the estate, hoping to capture images of the couple during what they had assumed would be a private weekend. Security concerns forced William and Catherine to cut their visit short, leaving them both frustrated and emotionally drained. "This can't continue," Catherine said as they drove back to London in tense silence. "I know," William replied, his knuckles white as he gripped the steering wheel. That evening, they had the most difficult conversation of their relationship to date. Both acknowledged that the external pressures were taking a toll on their happiness and their individual well-being. Catherine spoke honestly about her growing anxiety and the way constant scrutiny was affecting her ability to work and maintain normal relationships. William shared his own struggles with the competing demands of his royal duties and his desire to protect Catherine from the harsh realities of public life. He confessed that he sometimes wondered whether his love for her was selfish, given the price she was paying for their relationship. "Maybe we need some time apart," Catherine suggested quietly, the words causing physical pain even as she spoke them, "to figure out if this is really what we both want." The suggestion hung in the air between them like a physical presence, representing a possibility that neither wanted to contemplate, but both recognized might be necessary. After hours of painful discussion, they reached the heartbreaking decision to take a temporary break from their relationship. The decision to separate was kept private initially, known only to their closest family members and friends. Catherine continued her work at Jigsaw and maintained her normal social schedule, while William threw himself into his military duties with increased intensity. To outside observers, little seemed to have changed in their relationship, but those who knew them well could see the subtle signs of their separation. Catherine's smile seemed forced during public appearances, and William appeared distracted and somewhat withdrawn during his official engagements. The easy chemistry that had always existed between them was replaced by a careful distance that spoke volumes about their emotional state. The period of separation lasted several weeks, during which both Catherine and William experienced a complex mix of relief and profound sadness. Catherine found herself able to move through London without the constant presence of photographers for the first time in months, but the freedom felt hollow without William to share it with. William discovered that his royal duties, while meaningful and important, felt somehow incomplete without Catherine's presence to ground him and provide the personal happiness that balanced his public responsibilities. He found himself reaching for his phone to call her dozens of times each day, only to remember their agreement to maintain distance. Friends of both Catherine and William reported that they seemed lost during this period, going through the motions of their daily lives but lacking the joy and energy that had always characterized them when they were together. The separation that was meant to provide clarity instead seemed to highlight how much they meant to each other. The breakthrough came during a party in early May, hosted by a mutual friend who had grown tired of watching both Catherine and William suffer unnecessarily. The friend, with careful calculation, invited both of them without telling either that the other would be attending. When Catherine walked into the crowded London townhouse and saw William across the room, her heart stopped for a moment before beginning to race. He looked tired and somewhat thinner than when she had last seen him, but his eyes lit up when he spotted her in the doorway. They spent the entire evening aware of each other's presence, but maintaining their distance, each stealing glances when they thought the other wasn't looking. The magnetic pull between them was obvious to everyone in the room, creating an almost tangible tension that made their friends both hopeful and anxious. Finally, near the end of the evening, William approached Catherine as she stood alone on the terrace, looking out over the London skyline. "Hello," he said simply, the single word carrying the weight of everything they had been feeling during their weeks apart. "Hello," Catherine replied, turning to face him with tears already gathering in her eyes. "I've missed you," William admitted, his voice rough with emotion. "I've missed you too," Catherine whispered, and suddenly, they were in each other's arms, holding tight as if trying to make up for all the lost time and lonely nights they had endured. Their reconciliation that evening was emotional and profound, characterized by tears, laughter, and the overwhelming relief of two people who had found their way back to each other after a period of painful uncertainty. They talked until dawn, sharing everything they had learned about themselves and their relationship during their time apart. "I don't want to live without you," William told her as the first light of morning began to filter through the windows. "Then, don't," Catherine replied, her voice strong with newfound determination. The experience of separation had clarified something important for both of them. Their love was strong enough to weather the unique challenges they faced, and their commitment to each other was worth fighting for. They emerged from the crisis with a deeper understanding of what they meant to each other and a renewed determination to build a future together, regardless of the obstacles that lay ahead. Their reunion marked the beginning of a new phase in their relationship, one characterized by greater maturity, clearer communication, and an unshakable conviction that they were meant to be together. The challenges that had seemed overwhelming before their separation now appeared manageable, simply because they would face them as a united front. The media eventually learned of their brief separation, but by then, Catherine and William had already moved beyond it, stronger and more committed than ever. The temporary break that could have ended their relationship instead became the foundation for an even deeper and more resilient love. The summer following their reconciliation brought a new sense of purpose and direction to Catherine and William's relationship. The painful separation had stripped away the uncertainty and hesitation that had previously characterized their approach to the future, replacing it with a clear understanding of their mutual commitment and shared destiny. William had completed his officer training and was now serving with the Blues and Royals Regiment, while also beginning helicopter pilot training with the Royal Air Force. The military structure provided him with a sense of accomplishment and identity separate from his royal duties, and Catherine noticed how much more confident and grounded he seemed in this environment. Catherine, meanwhile, had left her position at Jigsaw to work full-time for her family's business, Party Pieces. The role allowed her greater flexibility to manage the media attention that continued to surround her, while also providing meaningful work that utilized her creative talents and business acumen. Their relationship during this period was characterized by a new level of openness and planning for the future. They began discussing marriage not as a distant possibility, but as an inevitable next step that required careful consideration and preparation. These conversations took place during quiet weekends at country houses belonging to friends, or during long walks through the countryside around Bucklebury. "When we marry," William would say, and the casual certainty in his voice filled Catherine with warmth and anticipation. "When we marry," Catherine would reply, and they would spend hours planning not just a wedding, but a life together that would balance personal happiness with public service. The transformation in their relationship was noticed by family and friends, who observed that both Catherine and William seemed more relaxed and genuinely happy than they had in months. The crisis of their separation had clarified their priorities and strengthened their resolve to build a future together despite the unique challenges they would face. Queen Elizabeth II invited Catherine to several private lunches at Windsor Castle during this period, recognizing the serious direction of William's relationship and wanting to know her potential future granddaughter-in-law better. These meetings were informal but significant, representing the Queen's tacit approval of Catherine and her growing acceptance into the royal family. Catherine approached these lunches with characteristic grace, neither overawed by the setting nor presumptuous about her future role. She spoke intelligently about her interests in art and photography, her work with party pieces, and her genuine enthusiasm for the charitable causes she hoped to support as part of the royal family. "She has a natural dignity," the Queen confided to her private secretary after one such lunch, "and an understanding of duty that suggests she will adapt well to royal life." The Queen's approval was crucial not just symbolically, but practically, as her support would be essential when William eventually sought formal permission to propose. The growing warmth between Catherine and the Queen represented a significant step forward in the relationship's progression toward marriage. Meanwhile, Catherine was building relationships with other members of the royal family, including William's father and stepmother, who had already welcomed her warmly into their circle. These relationships developed naturally over shared dinners, country weekends, and informal gatherings that allowed Catherine to experience royal family life from the inside. Prince Charles, in particular, was charmed by Catherine's intelligence and natural warmth. He appreciated her genuine interest in his environmental causes and her thoughtful questions about the challenges of balancing personal convictions with royal duties. Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall, became something of a mentor to Catherine, offering practical advice about managing media attention and maintaining personal relationships while living in the public eye. "The key," Camilla told Catherine during one of their conversations, "is to remember that you are a person first and a public figure second. Never lose sight of who you really are." This advice resonated deeply with Catherine, who had struggled with the way constant scrutiny seemed to require her to present a carefully curated version of herself to the world. The reminder that authenticity was not only possible but essential in royal life gave her confidence about her ability to maintain her core identity while adapting to new responsibilities. William's military career was progressing well, and he found particular satisfaction in his helicopter pilot training. The technical challenges and physical demands of flying suited his personality and provided an outlet for his natural leadership abilities. Catherine often attended military functions and ceremonies, where she was welcomed warmly by William's fellow officers and their spouses. These events gave Catherine valuable experience in formal social situations and helped her develop the skills she would need for official royal engagements. She learned to navigate complex seating arrangements, engage in meaningful conversation with people from all walks of life, and gracefully handle the constant presence of photographers and reporters. "You're a natural at this," William told her after a particularly successful regimental dinner where Catherine had charmed everyone from junior officers to senior commanders. "I'm learning," Catherine replied modestly, though she was gaining confidence in her ability to fulfill the social aspects of royal duty. The autumn brought new challenges and opportunities for both of them. William was selected for advanced helicopter training, which would eventually lead to his assignment as a search and rescue pilot with the Royal Air Force. The role appealed to his desire to serve in a meaningful capacity while also providing a career path that offered some degree of normalcy and regular schedule. Catherine, meanwhile, was taking on greater responsibilities with party pieces, working closely with her mother to expand the business and develop new product lines. The work was fulfilling and provided her with valuable business experience that would prove useful in her future role supporting various charitable organizations. Their relationship during this period was notable for its stability and maturity. The drama and uncertainty of their earlier years had been replaced by a steady progression toward marriage that felt both inevitable and carefully planned. They spent increasing amounts of time together, often joining each other for official functions and family gatherings that served as informal rehearsals for their future married life. Friends who knew them during this period often commented on how comfortable and natural they seemed together, how effortlessly they supported each other in both professional and social situations, and how their individual personalities seemed enhanced rather than diminished by their partnership. The holiday season of 2007 was particularly significant, as it represented the first Christmas where both families openly acknowledged the serious nature of Catherine and William's relationship. Catherine spent part of the holiday with the royal family at Sandringham, participating in the traditional Christmas Eve gift exchange and attending the Christmas morning church service. The sight of Catherine walking with the royal family to St. Mary Magdalene Church, dressed elegantly in a brown coat and matching hat, was captured by photographers and published around the world. The images conveyed a sense of belonging and natural grace that suggested her seamless integration into royal life. "She looks like she's always been part of the family," one royal correspondent noted, and indeed, Catherine's presence seemed to add warmth and modernity to the traditional royal Christmas celebrations. The new year brought fresh speculation about engagement announcements, particularly after Catherine was spotted wearing what appeared to be a new ring. The media scrutiny intensified again, but both Catherine and William had developed strategies for managing the attention that allowed them to maintain their privacy while acknowledging public interest in their relationship. William's search and rescue training was scheduled to begin in the spring, which would take him to RAF Valley on the island of Anglesey in Wales. The posting represented both an opportunity and a challenge for the couple, as it would provide them with a degree of privacy and normalcy they had rarely experienced, while also requiring them to live together openly for the first time. The decision for Catherine to join William in Wales was made after careful consideration of the implications and opportunities it would present. Living together would essentially announce their intention to marry, while also providing valuable experience of the kind of partnership they would need to develop as a married couple balancing public duties with private happiness. "Are you ready for this?" William asked Catherine as they discussed the move to Wales and what it would mean for their relationship. "I'm ready for anything, as long as we're together," Catherine replied, and the conviction in her voice reflected the growth and maturity their relationship had achieved. The months leading up to their move to Wales were filled with careful planning and growing excitement. They would be living in a farmhouse on Anglesey, providing them with the kind of domestic privacy that had been impossible in London. The arrangement would allow William to focus on his demanding search and rescue training while giving Catherine the opportunity to experience life as a military spouse. More importantly, it would provide them with the chance to test their compatibility in a normal domestic setting, sharing household responsibilities and daily routines without the constant presence of royal household staff. This period would prove crucial in demonstrating their readiness for marriage and their ability to create a happy home together. The announcement of William's posting to Wales was met with understanding and support from both families, who recognized the value of this relatively normal period in the couple's relationship. It represented a pause before the final transition to fully royal life, a chance to consolidate their partnership before taking on the full weight of constitutional responsibilities. As they prepared for the move to Wales, both Catherine and William felt a sense of anticipation and excitement about this next phase of their relationship. The challenges they had faced and overcome together had prepared them for whatever lay ahead, and they approached their future with confidence and deep love for each other. The cottage in Wales would become their first real home together, a place where they could simply be William and Catherine without the constant awareness of their public roles. It was in this setting that their relationship would reach its final stage of preparation for marriage, and where they would create the foundation for the life they would build together as husband and wife. The significance of this period could not be overstated, as it represented the culmination of years of growth, challenge, and deepening love that had transformed two university students into a couple ready to take on the unique responsibilities and opportunities of royal life together. Their journey from St. Andrews to Anglesey had prepared them for whatever challenges lay ahead, armed with unshakable love and mutual respect that would serve as the foundation for their future service to the nation and the Commonwealth. The cottage on Anglesey became a sanctuary where Catherine and William could finally experience the normal domestic life that had eluded them throughout their courtship. Nestled in the Welsh countryside, their home was modest by royal standards, but perfect for a young couple learning to navigate life together away from the constant scrutiny of the public eye. William's days were consumed by the intensive search and rescue helicopter training at RAF Valley, while Catherine established routines that allowed her to continue supporting party pieces remotely while also creating a warm, comfortable home for both of them. The simple pleasure of cooking dinner together, walking their spaniel along the rugged coastline, and spending quiet evenings by the fire represented a kind of happiness neither had fully experienced before. "This feels like real life," Catherine confided to her sister Pippa during one of their regular phone calls. "For the first time since university, we're just living day to day without constantly thinking about cameras or protocols or what everything means for the future." The respite from intense media scrutiny allowed their relationship to deepen in new ways. They learned each other's daily habits, shared household responsibilities, and developed the kind of comfortable intimacy that comes from genuine partnership. William discovered Catherine's talent for creating beautiful, welcoming spaces, while Catherine appreciated William's dedication to his search and rescue training and his growing confidence as a helicopter pilot. The work William was doing in Wales resonated deeply with his desire to serve in a meaningful way. Search and rescue missions required split-second decisions, physical courage, and the ability to remain calm under extreme pressure. The lives he helped save and the families he helped reunite gave him a profound sense of purpose that complemented his royal duties rather than conflicting with them. Catherine often attended squadron social events, where she was embraced by the close-knit community of military families. The wives and partners of William's fellow pilots appreciated her down-to-earth nature and her genuine interest in their experiences. These relationships provided Catherine with valuable insights into military life, while also giving her a support network outside the royal circle. "She's one of us," the wife of William's squadron commander told a friend. "She remembers your children's names, asks about your husband's deployments, and shows up with homemade biscuits when someone's having a difficult time. Royal or not, she's the kind of neighbor you hope to have." The months in Wales also provided William and Catherine with the opportunity to discuss their future plans in detail, free from external pressures and expectations. They talked about their hopes for children, their shared commitment to charitable work, and the kind of royal household they wanted to create when they eventually took on their full constitutional roles. These conversations revealed the depth of their compatibility and shared values. Both were committed to modernizing aspects of royal life while respecting tradition. Both wanted to use their platform to support meaningful causes, and both prioritized creating a stable, loving environment for their future family. The turning point came during a particularly challenging rescue mission in which William's helicopter was called out during a severe winter storm to search for missing climbers on Snowdonia. The operation lasted nearly 12 hours, with dangerous flying conditions and limited visibility, making the search extremely hazardous. Catherine spent those 12 hours in their cottage, following news reports and waiting for word that William and his crew had returned safely. The experience gave her a visceral understanding of what it meant to be married to someone whose service could put him in genuine danger, and her calm strength during that long night impressed William's commanding officers and fellow pilots. When William finally returned home, exhausted and emotionally drained from the unsuccessful search, he found Catherine waiting with a warm meal and quiet understanding. She didn't bombard him with questions or demand reassurance about her own fears. Instead, she simply held him and let him process the difficult emotions of a mission that hadn't ended as hoped. "I could do this job for the rest of my life with you waiting at home," William told her that night, and Catherine understood that he was talking about more than just search and rescue work. The proposal, when it finally came, was both a surprise and the natural culmination of everything they had built together. William had been carrying his mother's engagement ring for months, waiting for the right moment and location to ask Catherine to marry him. The opportunity arose during a holiday in Kenya in October 2010 when they visited a wildlife conservancy that held special meaning for both of them. The setting was perfect, a remote lodge overlooking the African savanna, with vast skies and wildlife roaming freely in the distance. After a morning game drive, William suggested they climb to a scenic overlook where they could watch the sunset and enjoy a private dinner prepared by the lodge staff. As they sat together watching elephants move slowly across the landscape below, William felt the familiar nervousness he hadn't experienced since their university days. The ring box in his pocket seemed to weigh 1,000 pounds, and he found himself rehearsing words he had practiced countless times. "Catherine," he began, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "I can't imagine spending my life with anyone else." Catherine turned to look at him, immediately sensing the significance of the moment from his tone and the intensity in his eyes. When he dropped to one knee and pulled out the iconic sapphire and diamond ring that had once belonged to Princess Diana, she gasped in genuine surprise despite having anticipated this moment for months. "Will you marry me?" William asked, his voice filled with love and hope and vulnerability. "Yes," Catherine replied without hesitation, tears of joy streaming down her face. "Yes, of course, yes." The moment was perfect in its simplicity and privacy, exactly what both of them had hoped their engagement would be. They spent the rest of the evening talking about their plans, their dreams, and the incredible journey that had brought them to this point. The ring, with its deep blue sapphire surrounded by diamonds, felt like a blessing from William's mother and a symbol of the love story they were writing together. They kept their engagement secret for several weeks after returning to Wales, savoring the private joy of their commitment while they prepared for the public announcement that would change their lives forever. Catherine wore the ring on a chain around her neck, hidden beneath her clothes, touching it occasionally to remind herself that their long courtship was finally culminating in the marriage they had both dreamed of. The official announcement came on a crisp November morning, released simultaneously by Clarence House and Buckingham Palace. The statement was simple but momentous. The Prince of Wales is delighted to announce the engagement of Prince William to Miss Catherine Middleton. The news sparked celebration across Britain and throughout the Commonwealth, with messages of congratulation pouring in from world leaders, celebrities, and ordinary people who had followed their love story for nearly a decade. The engagement was seen as a moment of joy and renewal for the monarchy, representing the successful integration of a commoner into the royal family and the promise of a new generation of royal leadership. Catherine's first public appearance after the engagement announcement took place outside St. James's Palace, where she and William posed for photographers and gave their first interview as an engaged couple. Catherine wore a sapphire blue dress that complemented her engagement ring perfectly, and her radiant smile conveyed the genuine happiness she felt about their future together. "I'm thrilled, over the moon," she told reporters, her natural warmth and authenticity immediately endearing her to the public. When asked about the proposal, she laughed and said, "It was very romantic. There's a true romantic in there." William, meanwhile, spoke about his choice to give Catherine his mother's ring, explaining that it was his way of ensuring his mother could be part of their special day. The gesture resonated deeply with the public, who had never forgotten Princess Diana and welcomed this connection to her memory. The months between the engagement announcement and the wedding were a whirlwind of preparation, protocol, and increasing public attention. Catherine was assigned her own protection detail for the first time and began working with palace staff to prepare for her new role. She took lessons in royal protocol, practiced curtsying, and learned about the constitutional aspects of her future position. Despite the intensity of the preparation, Catherine approached each new challenge with characteristic grace and determination. She understood that marrying William meant accepting responsibilities that would last for the rest of her life, and she was committed to fulfilling those responsibilities to the best of her ability. The wedding planning itself was a delicate balance between personal preferences and constitutional requirements. Catherine and William wanted their wedding to reflect their personalities while also serving as a celebration of British culture and tradition. They chose Westminster Abbey for its historical significance and its connection to the coronation ceremonies of British monarchs. Catherine's wedding dress, designed by Sarah Burton for Alexander McQueen, was kept secret until the morning of the ceremony, but every other detail was scrutinized and celebrated by a media and public fascinated by every aspect of the upcoming royal wedding. The night before the wedding, Catherine stayed with her family at the Goring Hotel in London, enjoying a quiet dinner and early evening with the people who had supported her throughout the incredible journey from university student to future princess. The Middleton family had remained her anchor throughout the years of public scrutiny and royal preparation, providing love, stability, and perspective when the pressures of her new life seemed overwhelming. Tomorrow changes everything, Pippa told her sister as they sat together in Catherine's suite, looking out over London and thinking about the ceremony that awaited them. Tomorrow changes everything, Catherine agreed. But it also completes everything. This is what William and I have been working toward for years. As she prepared for sleep on her last night as Catherine Middleton, she reflected on the incredible journey that had brought her to this moment. From the shy university student who had caught the eye of a future king to the confident woman ready to take on one of the most demanding roles in public service, she had grown and evolved in ways she never could have imagined. The love story that had begun in the halls of St. Andrews was about to reach its most public and significant milestone. But Catherine knew that the wedding was just the beginning of the real adventure. Tomorrow, she would become the Duchess of Cambridge and take her place in the long history of the British monarchy. But tonight, she was simply a young woman in love, grateful for the journey that had brought her to this moment, and excited about the future she would build with the man who had won her heart all those years ago. The transformation from Catherine Middleton to Catherine, Duchess of Cambridge, would be complete in a matter of hours, but the love, strength, and partnership that had sustained her relationship with William would remain the foundation of everything they would accomplish together in the years ahead. Their tearful parting from their old lives was also a joyful beginning of their new chapter together, witnessed and celebrated by a nation that had watched their love story unfold with fascination and genuine affection.